Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Film Seizure. It's Wednesday, and you are listening to the second week of Stephen King month to celebrate this spooky October 2020. We always like to do some spooky flicks in October, kind of keep up with that Halloween vibe that's going on. And we decided Stephen King would be our theme for the month. Last week we talked about Salem's Lot from 1979. This week we are talking about David Cronenberg's Dead Zone from 1983. And as always, we have Jeff Arbuckle and Chuck Moore here to talk about this spookiness. How you doing, guys?
What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? I like that you built a world very similar to how Stephen King would have written it.
Oh,
with that
yeah.
opening. So thank you.
Create a little atmosphere.
Yeah,
Spooky.
spooky. I will argue, though, that this is probably our one not really horror,
I agree.
but more of a thriller.
It is. It's kind of, Susan pointed this out, and she's right, and I did a little research on it. And
Wait,
it was
Bonnie
very
Bedelia
intentional.
watched it with you?
She did.
Oh, my God, that's great. How's she doing?
It's kind of three movies in one. And
Yes,
the writer of the screenplay described it as a triptych. And that was a very astute observation by Susan. It's kind of a romantic melodrama to start. It is a bit of a like serial killer thriller in the middle, and then it's a political thriller at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, and it all works magnificently.
I think it does, too. Chuck, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, man. So I've gone through life saying that there aren't many good King adaptations in film. And man, I'm starting to feel like I'm wrong or misremembering, because Salem's Lot was good.
Mm-hmm.
The Dead Zone is excellent. An excellent movie. Really well done.
At the point in time that this came out, Roger Ebert said that of the half dozen or so that had been done up to this point, this was his favorite. By a pretty wide margin, I think.
Yeah, that would mean Carrie. Yeah, that he liked it better than Carrie.
And over Shining.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Shining for me has always been like the gold standard. And it's not, I mean, it's a big departure, at least from the King's work. I don't know how far this strays, but I'm feeling not a lot just by watching it from the source
Based
material.
on when I was comparing the two Wikipedia articles, it's pretty close.
Yeah, and what I've read, I've not ever read The Dead Zone. Read a lot of King, but for whatever reason, I've never read this one. But from my understanding, Stephen King really liked the adaptation of this. He said, you made my story a tighter, more effective story.
Nice.
Which probably makes sense, because this was probably written in like Coke-fueled days of Stephen King. Yeah.
I would say that's accurate. The Dead Zone is also a dead zone for me in the literary sense. There aren't many King books I haven't read, and I don't know why I have not read this one, but now I want to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, are you going to go back and reread any, like Salem's Lot, or are you going to read this one?
Well, when we came up with this idea, I had fully intended to try to read all of the stuff we chose, but timing just didn't work out for that. But I think I will go back and read Salem's Lot. I've planned for years to try to reread the whole Dark Tower series. I guess that's a separate conversation, but Salem's Lot fits into that narrative. But yeah, I definitely want to read The Dead Zone now, because it'll be fresh for me. And
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, I was just going to say there are parts of the story in Dead Zone that are dealt with rather quickly that I'm wondering if are longer parts in the book that I'd like a little more detail on. But we can talk about those parts as we get to them.
Chuck, you mentioned that 83 was a banner year for Stephen King movies because which one? Christine came out the same year. Not only did Christine come out the same year, but also Cujo.
Wow.
Yep. Which is interesting because Cujo also features the character of Sheriff George Bannerman.
Interesting.
I believe he actually dies in Cujo.
Is that accurate in the books?
I'm
Probably.
not sure, to be honest. Probably. Yeah.
Is that Tom Skerritt?
Yes, that's him into the Dead Zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
That character makes an appearance in. Is it the same character in the new season of Castle Rock? I'm not sure.
I think it is, and I meant to mention this last week, is that the Marston House has come back in Castle Rock season 2 as well.
Yeah, it did.
But yeah, that's, I guess, in the past.
So what we have is David Cronenberg adaptation of The Dead Zone, and it's a Dino De Laurentiis production as well.
Yeah, so we got some more Dino going on here.
We got some more Dino. Dino produced Dune, and he produced Blue Velvet. So we have a producer in Dino De Laurentiis who likes auteurs. He definitely does, but he also is like the businessman, the consummate businessman. But he likes matching up, directors with the right projects. Where, because if you have a passionate director behind what they're making, that can come through in the box office. That can come through in the quality. That's really what you have here with The Dead Zone is a movie that just kind of fits everyone's sensibilities really well, and it works. Cronenberg was actually approached by Deborah Hill to direct this movie, not by Dino. She said, I'm producing this Dino De Laurentiis production. I think you'd be a great fit for the director. And Cronenberg kind of even said he surprised himself by saying yes immediately. He never even read the book or was all that familiar with it. He was just kind of trusting the source material, trusting Deborah Hill more than anything. And it was kind of like a big deal project for him because he had only really just gotten an agent after he made Scanners. He had actually finished shooting Videodrome in '81, so he was kind of looking for his next project anyway. Even though Videodrome came out the same year, earlier in the year that Dead Zone came out, it was pretty much done. He just kind of on a whim almost picked this project as his next project, and little did he know that it really fits his sensibilities well. Like Deborah Hill's instinct was correct. She was like, this is right for you. And he just kind of said, all right, let's dig in. And it sure as hell was. And we can get into the whys of that in a little later. But yeah, I just love I love it when a true auteur makes a Stephen King movie, it usually turns into something good. We saw that with Hooper. You definitely see that with De Palma and Carrie. You see that with Kubrick and The Shining. You see that with Carpenter and Christine, which, spoiler alert, is next week's movie. And you certainly see that with Cronenberg and The Dead Zone.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Well, next week we will be.
That was good. That was a good episode.
That was a good episode, guys. There you guys. We did it. I thoroughly liked pretty much every minute of this movie.
Even the title sequence, man.
Oh, that was so
good,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what that reminded me of? Remember the cover to like V.C. Andrews novels, like Flowers Attic,
they had the what did they call that?
There was a
cutout.
cutout.
Like cutout.
Yeah, it was like a cutout where I always liked that.
It's like a gatefold, or not a gatefold, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, it's like a gateway into what's going on. And I really, really liked the coldness of this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie does not take place ever in spring or summer. In fact, I don't think those exist in this world. It's always fall or it's always winter.
Yeah.
It really, I kind of think of it like that reflects Johnny Smith. Like he's barren and alone and he can't be around, and there's a chilling aspect to his life, and I think that kind of plays out with the setting and the time frame and all of that as well. Also, I like that he is John Smith, that he's literally a nobody who has this power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is it was shot in Ontario, Niagara area, on the Canadian side for sure. I mean, that's Cronenberg very rarely shoots outside of Canada. And yeah, absolutely. It's so sparse, so cold. Everything is, you feel like the dead zone is represented by those two things. The character, obviously, of Christopher Walken, and how despondent he is through most of the movie, and then the setting. Just I love movies, obviously, that deal with weather as a character, and I think that very much so it's a character here, and it's an imposing force.
I like that you had mentioned that Christopher Walken seems despondent. He even seemed like that before his accident.
Yeah,
he doesn't seem normal.
He seemed a little lost.
Yeah, or just at least dispassionate.
Mm-hmm.
That he's just kind of floating through life. Again, he's kind of a nobody. He's very anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got a girlfriend, but how much does she really love him compared to just wants to be secure with somebody? We'll talk a lot about that, I have a feeling, because I found that to be very, very interesting, how quickly she disappears from his life. His parents are weird. They're really weird. His mom is very weird. She speaks like a Quaker or a
She cleaves now unto another man, a husband.
Yeah.
He says that line.
Yes. And it's like meant to be like 1983.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. She was the weirdest character in this film. The only person that seemed out of place, kind of.
Yeah. Like she looked like she was like Johnny's dad went and visited the Amish for a weekend and brought home a bride.
Yeah, she was a mail order Amish bride or something.
Yeah.
But before we get into the depth of this film, because it's a pretty serious film and it has serious implications, I guess, in the story, how awesome is it seeing Christopher Walken on a roller coaster?
I know, right? With only Brooke Adams and no one else. That had to be terrifying for Brooke Adams.
Yeah, and I wondered in that scene, too, he seems to get a headache. And I thought maybe that there was the premonitions coming on or something, but it's never really explored again why it was hurting his head on the road.
Well, I think that his powers are starting to emerge, right?
So before the accident,
yeah.
Okay.
And I don't even necessarily think the accident caused his powers. Mm-hmm. I just think that they were already starting to emerge, and now it's 5 years later after he comes out of his coma, and they had been developing that whole entire time. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I think
in the novel it's a brain tumor, and they kind of excised that from.
Yeah, I thought so too.
From the movie, yeah.
So in this, Chuck, it's kind of like the X gene. It's like it takes a highly pressurized situation for that to finally manifest.
I love it. He's an X-Man.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I wrote a note that this in some ways is like Stephen King's superhero movie.
Yeah.
Or superhero novel, I guess.
It's kind of like Unbreakable in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Put upon person.
Yeah, I think Unbreakable probably borrowed a lot of its ideas from this film, even up to touching people to see what they're up to, or what's going to happen with them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
One question that I have, and maybe I ask this now, and maybe the answer doesn't present itself until later, because it does bring about some some plot points of this movie, but has King ever explored this as being somewhat related in any way, shape, or form to like Shining and Doctor Sleep and like the other those?
I don't know if this is characterized as The Shine in the book, but it's definitely seems related somehow.
Sure.
And and the Shine shows up in other stories outside of Doctor Sleep and The Shining. Not always called the same thing, but King is very into themes. So I would not be surprised at all if this was the same kind of power.
I mean, telekinesis obviously has a huge place in a lot of King novels. This isn't all that. Yeah, it's not a jump or a leap to put this in the same category as what you would consider The Shine. Yeah.
Yeah, because it always seemed like Carrie and Firestarter were related. Yeah, because I mean, just thinking about it just from, because obviously I don't read no books. I talked about that last week. I did read Dracula, though, at one point in my life.
Thank you for sharing.
And I've read a couple of James Bond books. So there you go. I do read some books.
I also did write that a recent novel that King wrote called The Institute has similar vibes to this power.
Yes.
I'm in the middle of that right now.
Okay. Yeah. Because, the other thing I was going to say is that, just because I hadn't really ever read King. I feel like I read some of Pet Sematary at one point, but I was like way too young and just didn't do it. But after seeing like Dr. Sleep and seeing that really kind of really was trying to open up that world, that King world, and use The Shining as the lay person's way in.
There are all just, people in King movies or King stories have something supernatural about them, and they're all pretty much related. And they're also, they're used against others by evil forces in King movies, King stories, like specifically the Dark Tower. Someone like Johnny Smith would probably be used as a breaker in the Dark Tower. And what the breakers do is they're essentially slaves to use their mental powers to break these invisible beams that hold the entire universe together. So they're being used as agents of chaos. Anyone with the Shine would be that. Hearts in Atlantis, what's his face, Anthony Hopkins' character, he has a very specific type of mental power. He is used as a breaker. So yes, I mean, this is all tied into the Kingverse, most definitely.
Yeah. And as far as reading, Jeff, not to pigeonhole you necessarily, but King would probably be the first writer I'd recommend you to read, because he's very comic book friendly. Like his stuff, all of his books almost could be written as a comic, which they do with the Dark Tower series quite effectively.
Yeah.
So much so that his son is like a super famous comic book writer now, and he takes after his father a lot in that sense.
Yep.
So if you ever do decide you want to read, this would be where I would start, or recommend starting probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll get hooked on phonics, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I think too, talking about King's obsession with people with supernatural power, right? And the morality kind of play that they then find themselves in, because I do believe that this at its heart, Dead Zone is a morality play.
I mean the famous question is asked in this. It's like, if you had the chance to go and kill Hitler,
right? Yep. But that pairs really well with Cronenberg, because Cronenberg, he also likes to play with the idea of the human evolution. And what humans could potentially be capable of as they evolve, and that those evolutions of human ability may be a good or a bad thing, right? Or he likes to play with sort of how we tamper with technology and how that can also change human perception and human ability. Very much a theme in Videodrome, absolutely a theme in Scanners, which I think this would make just a fucking killer double feature if you did Scanners and Dead Zone back to back. Oh my God. I mean, it is so many of the same beats and so many of the same ethical dilemmas. I have this power. How do I use it? Or am I a monster? And should I just cower in my home because of the danger that this puts me and others in as well? Right.
And it's also killing him, you know,
and it is literally killing him. Yeah.
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 So okay, let's break down the 3 different movies that make up the Dead Zone.
Yeah, let's do it.
So in the first act, we see school teacher Johnny Smith. He's reading The Raven to his, I'm assuming that's a middle school class. Just because some of the kids look pretty young, but you know, and he tells them to go read the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, because it's about a teacher who gets tracked down by a demon, and
and Walken becomes that demon eventually, which is kind of funny.
Well, but he's also,
in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow,
right? But he also is Ichabod. He's also Ichabod.
Oh yeah,
because he's the bachelor who will not be basically missed by anybody,
right?
Which is
that's a sad moment when he says that that's actually what he wants to be.
That's what he wants to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes on a date with his colleague, who's played by Brooke Adams, who, man, someday we need to watch that 78 version of
Body Snatchers.
Body Snatchers, yeah, because
that would make a great double feature with Salem's Lot. It would be killer. Yep.
It'd be a long night, but it'd be killer.
It would.
So anyway, yeah, Sarah, and they go to an amusement park where nobody else is. I don't know if I'd want to go to an amusement park with nobody else and Christopher Walken.
Yeah, there's like no one there.
There's no one there. In fact, when they get off the roller coaster, like the guy who's working the roller coaster, like, okay, let's put it away. Like, did he pay to do this?
To open it up for him?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But because it's like cold as balls outside too. It's dreary. But anyway, he's Christopher Walken's on a roller coaster, doing things like
it's fantastic.
It's great. It's great. But he gets a little bit of a headache, and it's like a migraine, it appears. And he doesn't feel right, but he's not like he's not utterly destroyed by it, but he's scared of it. And that actually brings up something that I really, really like later in this first act. But he takes Sarah home, and she's like, "Oh, I love you so much. I just, be safe and drive home carefully, because it's, it's kind of wet out." And he's just got like a little VW bug.
Yeah.
Oh man, Christopher Walken and a little tiny VW bug. Also, come on, are you serious?
Yep.
But anyway, so he goes. He's going home, and a milk truck. I think it's a milk truck, right?
It is a milk truck.
Okay. It loses control, and the tanker part is left on the road while the truck part goes off into a field, and there's also like some fogginess on the window
and he's coming up a hill, so
he's coming up a hill. He can't really see anything, so he tries to avoid it, but he hits it, and it tumbles his car. The driver helps him out, and then he is in the hospital, and he's all bandaged up and everything. And Sarah, comes to tell him that she doesn't want him to die and all of that. She wants him to wake up. And then next time you see him, he is completely healed up, and he wakes up in what appears to it's the Weizak Institute. Dr. Sam Weizak, which every time a doctor shows up and an institute's named after him in a David Cronenberg movie, I'm a little
it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah. But this is a good thing. Herbert Lom is a good guy.
He's a great doctor.
He is
like a great doctor,
right? And he's there with Johnny, and Johnny's wants something to drink. His throat hurts. But he also realized, he holds his hands up. He's like, "There's no bandages. What's going on?"
Like, "I'm lucky. I got lucky."
Yeah, I'm lucky. And Dr. Weizak's kind of your parents are here. Yeah, your parents are here.
Have them explain it to you?
No, not have them explain it. Accidentally blurt out, "You've been brought back to us by the Lord."
Yeah,
or whatever. And he's like, "Say what?" And Dr. Weizak's like, "Mrs. Smith, please shut up."
Yeah. He wasn't in a spell. He was in a coma.
Yeah, or a trance. She said, "You've been delivered from your trance."
So, yes, we were talking about the mom, Jackie Burroughs. She's one of those actresses that has kind of always looked like an old lady. I remember her she was on that Anne of Avonlea show, which makes sense because that was Sarah Polley, right? And it was Canadian produced, so I'm sure that's how Cronenberg, Canadian actors, film actors is probably a pretty tight group anyway. But
right,
Cronenberg has worked with Sarah Polley, and Sarah Polley in a lot of ways has circled sort of Cronenberg's sphere for a long time. But what I remember her from the most was she was in the fucking Ewoks TV series. She was a voice of the Morag, the Tolga witch. Remember her?
Oh,
kind of like creeped me out. Yeah,
that was a bad show.
It was terrible.
That's a dead zone in my memory.
But she is in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, there was that, and Droids were back to back on Saturday mornings, like in 1985 or 6 or something. Yeah, they were bad. And then remember those TV movies?
Oh God,
yeah,
so
those
bad.
were bad.
So bad. Anyway, there's a little bit of a divergent for you.
So and he's like, "So where's Sarah?" And she's like, "What?" Chuck, say the line.
"She cleaves now unto another man, a husband."
Because he's been asleep for 5 years. Now in the book, I think it's 4 years or something like that I read, but it's 5 years in this, and in the TV show that was Anthony Michael Hall in the early 2000s, it was 6 years. So next time they do this, it'll be 7.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, he's pretty bummed out by this because, like, wow, she just kind of totally dumped me. Like while I was needing her the most, maybe. And that's interesting because I do have questions about the Sarah character because I don't really think she's very selfish.
Oh, she certainly is.
But
she's also racked with guilt.
Sure. Well, she should be.
She's flawed.
Right. Which makes her an interesting character too.
Very interesting.
So she, so now, Christopher Walken's all bummed out in this hospital. He doesn't know what's anything. 5 years have passed. What's going on? And a nurse comes in and notices that he's sweating profusely. So she goes to wipe his brow, and he kind of starts, and he grabs her hand. And in that, he sees this nurse's house burning, and her little daughter is trapped in the house.
Her little latchkey kid.
A little latchkey kid who apparently is definitely watching after herself, man. This is definitely 1983. So it turns out that, yes, her house was on fire. Her daughter, she's all dirtied up. So, yes, she was in the house, and he saved her.
Hurry up.
I was just going to say, your daughter's screaming. Hurry up.
Yeah, it's good.
It's real good.
Yeah, Christopher Walken brings some definite intensity. Like
all the best of Walken is in this movie. Yeah, like the stuff I love him doing the most.
Have you seen The Deer Hunter?
Yeah,
because he is.
He's great in that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is his best performance. I'm saying the stuff he does is the stuff
I think in a lot of ways this may be one of his best performances.
This is one of his better ones
because
though, yeah.
he does a lot. His range is on display, and he nails all of it.
Yeah, the only thing he doesn't do is dance.
Yeah,
if he danced, that would be it.
So he
kind of has his version of the Gene Hackman cackle too.
Yes,
Christopher Walken does.
Yeah, he does. So he's
fake laugh.
He begins to spot that he can know things. Like he touches the doctor, and he tells his doctor that because his doctor Weizak was rescued or
whatever.
Yeah, and he was essentially evacuated from Nazi occupation.
Separated from his mother, yeah.
Separated from his mother. He assumed that his mother died or, didn't do much more than a cursory search for her after the war. And he tells him that, yeah, she's still alive and here's where she is, basically. And he calls her and finds out that, oh my God, he's right. And at this point, there's something I think is really, really smart about this. And I think this might be a Cronenberg thing, because I kind of feel like this exact thing is done especially in Rabid. But Johnny says, I'm really scared.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand what's like. This isn't just him just taking this in stride. Like, he's terrified.
It's his scanners too.
Yeah,
most definitely. And
he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want to see these things that he's seeing. And he also, I don't think, wants to be a savior for anybody either. Like, he's got that kind of, I don't want this. This is because he has a press conference where he's talking about like saving the nurse's daughter and everything, and there's this one pushy reporter who's wearing,
that guy's an asshole,
right? And he's wearing a leather sport coat. That killed me. It's like, well, this guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
And he's like, so, well, why don't you just tell me what's going on? What's going to happen? What's my future? Or what, and he's like,
is Stilson going to win the election?
Yeah. And he keeps,
but I like them laying the groundwork there for Stilson.
Before this too, when Christopher Walken's talking to his doctor, and his doctor wants to admit him, he wants to, you keep him in his institute and study him. Christopher Walken's like, no way. But the doctor is, he's like, I like when he says, what you're dealing with here is either some new human ability or something very old.
Yeah.
Right.
That's very
that.
King.
It's so King. Yeah. And I like that. That kind of chills me just to say it out loud, because here you have a doctor who then has done research on these abilities and brings this information. I think it's later. He brings this information back to Christopher Walken because he believes what he sees. He believes what he experienced. He's not a denier of this.
Well, he can't argue
so appreciate that.
He does not. He does not just sweep it under the rug like another character later,
right?
Who does and then pays the consequences for it.
But yes, back to the press conference.
Yeah, so then he's kind of had enough of this asshole, and he grabs his hand, and it's like, oh, you want to know why your sister killed herself? And like really digs in, like really hits kind of low. I mean, which is the guy has it coming.
Well, it feels like he's gonna like Michael Ironside his head off. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and the guy is starting to feel that emotion of all that stuff being brought back up. And it scares that guy, and it scares him kind of straight too. It's kind of like he doesn't fuck with them anymore.
Well, it's interesting. That's a theme in this movie too, is that whenever he reads, and it only happens a few times, but whenever he reads someone that has like dark motives, it almost feels like they can feel him inside their head.
Yeah,
like
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of, maybe that's that otherworldly, the light and the dark facing off.
Because Sheen 100% is like, terrified of him, not just because he's holding his hand.
Right. It seems like he knows that he
knows that he's in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
and he knows, I think, what not only that he's in his head, but what he can see.
Yeah. And,
right.
But I also like the fact that we don't know if he does or does not read Sarah.
Right.
He keeps that, either he's playing that close to his vest or he can turn it on and off, which is interesting because that's, he does not, every single person he touches does this happen to. Because even the little boy, he doesn't, was it Chris? He doesn't read Chris either.
Right, not at first. I think something needs to be drastic in their lives for him to see anything.
Yeah,
that's the way it felt to me.
Yeah, drastic, or I think a change has to occur. And I think with the boy, he was that change.
Yes, I agree.
He actually put this kid on track to then have this encounter with his father because he's come out of his shell, as his father had said. And now, his father perceives that the relationship is better and wants to do this hockey thing. So, yeah, Christopher Walken,
that wasn't going to happen before.
It wouldn't have happened before.
Right.
So,
so basically, the end of the first act just basically brings Johnny Smith back home after his mother, because his mother has a stroke or a heart attack or something while he is confronting the reporter.
Her almost face is hilarious in that scene. I'm sorry.
Well, she's just a hilarious character.
Yeah.
But she is somewhat connected to him too, or connected to, or tapped into that somehow, I think.
Yeah.
But she ultimately dies. So Johnny comes home to help his dad out. And that enters into Act 2, and I will hand the ball off at this point.
Act 2, the Castle Rock Killer.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're one of my favorite scenes that I've seen in a long, long time.
I have a feeling I know what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, okay. No, I mean, we'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Do you want to talk about this act, Jason, or I'll go. Tom Skerritt, Frank Bannerman. Is that his name? Frank Bannerman? It's Bannerman.
Yep. George Bannerman.
George Bannerman goes to see Johnny Smith at his house because
it's Deputy Frank Dodd. That you had Dodd and Bannerman.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Dodd is his partner, and Dodd is like to Bannerman is saying, this is useless. Nothing is going to come of this.
Yeah.
So
why are we here?
Yeah, Bannerman goes into the house and is like, "Hey, we've had these killings, that have pretty much been going on for years, and we have nothing. I think you could help us." And Johnny Smith is like, "No, I don't want to help you." And
there's a great moment that
he says to him, "Well, why wouldn't you use this power that God has blessed you with?"
And he's even saying, "I'm not even that religious, but I have to believe that you were given this by by a deity or something.
You've been given a gift." Yeah.
And I wish I wrote this down.
A gift from God, I think it might have even said.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Walken's reaction here is just wonderful.
Oh, he lays into him.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, you think I asked God to give me this?" Or he's
like, "I've lost everything. I've lost 5 years of my life. The woman I love."
He says, "My girl. I lost my girl."
my girl.
God's been a real sport to me is how he ends that, which cracked me up.
And Tom Skerritt that reaction really well. He
understands.
He understands, but he also is just like a little disappointed still.
Yeah.
Well, you can hear it in his voice.
He does tell him, it's like, well, if you ever have a change of heart, and then uses a TV interview to reach out to him.
Yeah, and
if there's anybody out there who has any information yet, he totally does.
I got the feeling when he was leaving the house too that I thought he was going to say he'll come around to Dodd. Like it felt like he believed still that Johnny Smith would help him.
Yeah,
I don't know why he got that feeling, but he did.
Well, I think he believes that there is still good in people that they would help if they could. And I don't think he believes that this person who can help won't.
Right. So
Bannerman's a very hopeful person, I think.
Yes, he is, and he's also at his wit's end. So
yes.
I mean,
well, he's desperate. Yeah,
he's desperate.
He's seen some shit in Castle Rock. Let me tell you.
Yeah. so the next thing that happens is Sarah shows up.
Yeah.
With her 10-month-old or however old he is at this point, played by two different boys with two different last names. I thought that was
weird.
Interesting.
Probably a child labor thing.
Well, it's all Canadians look the same at us.
with their beady eyes and their flappy heads.
Their flappy heads. And they always fart.
Fucking face, Johnny Smith. You're a bone-biting bastard, Johnny Smith. Sorry.
They're constantly farting on each other too.
Yeah. I think their names were Terrence and Phillip, actually. Surge is one of them. I don't know. Steph was making fun of their names for some reason. But so Sarah comes and she wants to fulfill the line that Johnny Smith had earlier, which is sometimes things are worth waiting for, which is what he says to her before he goes and gets in the accident.
That's right. Because she wants him to come inside probably to spend the night, and he's like, nah.
Yeah. If he had done that,
she's looking for closure, and I don't have as many questions about her character as you do, Jeff. Well, I think 5 years is a long time, and I was going to ask you guys, because this isn't a morality thing, but how long would you wait?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
This entire thing is a philosophical question, right? Like, like if you're given the power, what would you do with it? 1, 2, if you are left, like, there is a certain emotional and financial and physical burden that having somebody in a coma for that long, like, I'm not even sure doctors would want to keep somebody in a coma that long.
Right. And it's interesting too, because what the dead zone is, as far as the title is concerned, is defined later in this film, but there's a dead zone for him when he's in a coma.
It's the blind spot of the world in 5 years.
Yeah, and there's a dead zone for her while he's in a coma, because a part of her life that she thought was going to happen is not happening. And she runs into somebody eventually whom she falls in love with, and I don't blame her.
No,
I don't really either, but I also do think that there is when you find out that she leaves, it's like, oh, that's a bummer. But when she comes back in this scene,
I think it's cool.
Yes. I think she makes a philosophical mistake here.
I agree.
Yes, but it works.
It is the quintessential pity fuck.
Right.
That's a super pity fuck.
But I think it's also the reason that Johnny Smith decides to help Bannerman.
It is.
He gives himself a purpose again. He also has my favorite line in this. It
could have gone the other direction, though. It could have spiraled him back out of control.
Yes,
right. I mean, if he didn't have,
he's bouncing her kid on his knee, at dinner.
So let's break.
And he's like, "What's next?" Thing. And she's like, "Nothing. That's it."
Damn it! I wanted to go back and lead up to that. Because there is a lot that happens in this.
Yeah.
So 1, she comes over. And hey, here's my kid, and I guess 5 years is a good enough time to do this. Like, pops him out, and they have sex, and then she's cooking dinner for him.
It's really weird.
It is really awkward. In his house, it's strange.
Right, and
I actually thought that time had moved forward.
Right. So then he's talking about this lady that his dad has been hanging out with since his mom died, and he's always going over there to help her out, and she's doing and she's just asking him constantly to do these little odd jobs.
I think she likes the time with him other than the bookcases, which leads to a funny line.
My favorite line in the whole movie. The dad comes home, and it's like, oh, look, it's nice to have a family around this table again, to which Sarah says nothing.
Right.
Her kid is there, and then the dad says, so what have you guys been up to all day? And Walken looks at Sarah and kind of smiles, and then looks back at his dad and is like, making bookcases.
Right.
And I damn near fell out of my chair.
It was hilarious.
And then she leaves, and he's like happy, and he's like kind of skipping around, like, you know, like he almost seems more human than he was in the first scene with her. And he's like, so when do I see you again? And she says, I am.
He says, will I see you again? And she says, not like
today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just kind of accepts it, and he realizes at that point that, well, I mean, and then now he's going to have to go back in and explain to his dad. It's like, well, we were making bookcases, but they all fell off the fucking bookcase.
We're never going to put any books on him.
He's not a virgin anymore, guys. So
right.
Yeah.
Now he can die in the film.
That's all he needed was to get laid, and now he can go catch the Castle Rock killer.
Yep.
This is an incel fantasy, man. But anyway, so he, like, basically at this point, he's like, I'm just going to watch some TV. And, you know, you can kind of tell he is bummed out, but he also is, maybe he has a little bit of closure, and I think maybe that's what it's meant to be. But it's weird.
It's a bit dicey for me. Yeah.
Oh, it's like, if you guys would have told me that same story, I'd have been like, the fuck?
Yeah.
The fuck is that? I would have been pissed.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's kind of taking advantage of this guy who's,
he had a choice, but I get it. I mean, he chose to jump into her arms. It's not like she took advantage of him necessarily.
She did kind of take advantage of him.
I think he knew though that this is what this would amount to. She was wearing, it's not like she wasn't wearing a wedding ring or something. She was, this is definitely a bad choice on her part.
Sure.
But he should have asked questions up front.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there is something that awakens in him, though. It's like a humanity. It could have been just the fact that human interaction is what he needed. He was able to. You're right, though. I mean, man, was he reading her like the whole time he was inside her? Right?
Oh God. Well, thanks for making this creepy.
I was wondering if, like, when he was.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. Well, he was
I almost think that that might be crass, but there could have been a tasteful way of doing that. Like maybe he could have seen her future, and that she was happy, and then he was content enough to have that closure. You know what I mean?
The problem with that, though, is I do think that there is a story problem with that.
Yeah.
Because what he's going to see is what ends up happening.
Yeah. And
that's not going to be, he's going to insert himself.
Yeah.
Sooner. unless this moment for them is what put her on that path. Like she may not have had that future until this happened.
That is another good point, because another philosophical point that comes up is that he begins to manipulate futures,
Right.
Realizing that he can do some good with that.
Yeah.
It takes a couple of dead hockey players, but other than that, he figures out
What's a couple dead hockey players anyway?
Well, first, it takes my favorite shot of the movie. In that, so he decides to help the sheriff, and the sheriff takes him to the scene of the latest murder. Correct?
15-year-old schoolgirl.
Yeah, and
who was walking home through a tunnel.
And it's a real. That's a tunnel in the Canadian Niagara side of, I forget what they call it.
Did you guys think it looked a little bit like something out of It?
Yes.
Like I was kind of getting that vibe.
It's
of like
called the Screaming Tunnel in real life, and it's in Niagara Falls, Ontario.
That's
buddy.
No, that's that. It looked like the sewer in It. That was the first thing I thought of.
The way that shot is lit with the headlights and all of the reflections of the light off of the wet stones in that tunnel is just my jaw hit the ground. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's scary. It's dark. It's aesthetically pleasing. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's when you know you're watching something that's a little bit a cut above your typical genre fare.
This
right?
This isn't like 90% of Stephen King movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also looked a little bit like Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, so he grabs...
It did. Mm-hmm.
It's funny when he grabs the cigarette pack and he's rubbing it and he's looking around and, you're waiting for that moment, but nothing comes. Right?
Like, this is neat, guys. Listen to this. A local legend recounts that the tunnel is haunted by the ghost of a young girl who, after escaping a nearby burning farm building with her clothing ablaze, died within its walls. Several variants of the legend exist locally. One version has the girl set on fire by her enraged father as he loses custody of his children after a nasty divorce. Another tells of a young girl being raped inside the tunnel and her body burned to prevent any evidence from being found. All versions of these legends end with the girl's screams filling up the tunnel as she was burning to death.
Well, that's I'm gonna have
Damn.
nightmares tonight. Thanks.
Damn.
You just gave all of our listeners the heebie-jeebies.
Uh-huh.
Oh, not the heebie-jeebies.
The heebie-jeebies. Okay, so he's got the cigarette pack, which I'm also thinking if I'm an executive at Marlboro, I'm like, because I've already killed a bunch of people.
Right.
It's like, this isn't going to hurt us, guys. Let them use it for the killer.
That would have been a funny moment if he handed the cigarette pack back and said, "These are your killer."
He even did a little bit of an impersonation there, Chuck. Well done, Chuck.
Thank you. But they fortuitously get a call at the same time that there's another victim.
Yep. And the crunchiest snow ever.
Yeah,
yes.
It's crunchy.
That's some crunchy snow. That snow is pretty laid back, man. And this is my favorite scene of.
Go ahead, tell us about it.
Fucking, this scene is just
I'm
trying to think of what other movies we watched this year, and it might be one of my favorite scenes of any of the movies we've covered this year so far. So they crunch up to the gazebo, and there's a body there. They lift the blanket, and Deputy Frank says, "I know her." And so it's like, I knew her. She worked at the diner. And Sheriff Bannerman looks at Johnny and it's like, And
what do you got? Do your thing.
I'll give it a shot.
You want to try? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. So he gets down and he touches her and he starts seeing the whole thing play out. And what's interesting is that the way he's seeing it is from his own perspective. He's standing, the girl is walking further down, closer to a riverside.
Mm-hmm.
The killer's back is at the front of the gazebo, and he's standing at the back of the gazebo behind the killer.
Right.
And this is the part that begins my favorite sequence of this movie. He sees the killer say, "Hey, how's it going? Come up here for a second," or whatever. And it flashes back to Walken, and he's like, he knew her, or she knew him. And it's like, it's like, right then and there what's about to happen. And he keeps saying she knew him. She was friendly to him or whatever. And you see the whole thing play out. And he's not moving from his position from behind. So he's watching the whole thing from behind. And, the girl comes up to the gazebo and she's like, "What do you got to show me?" And it's like, "Oh, gazebo. Funny word, huh?" Or whatever. And it's like, this is what I would say to somebody.
Gazebo.
Gazebo is a funny word, isn't it? And like a Canadian, my head would flap like an ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then he... sorry, Canada. I actually really like you. Can you let us in?
Yes.
Possibly.
Accept us.
Yes. So anyway, so they and then the attack happens, and she gets knocked down to the ground, and he rips open her shirt or whatever, and that's when the head turns, and it's the deputy.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, 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 bum.
And so like he like comes out of the vision or whatever, and he's talking to Tom Skerritt, and Tom Skerritt's like, what's going on?
That's my favorite line of the movie is coming up.
And he said, I just stood there. I didn't do anything. I could have stopped that. I didn't do anything. I didn't. And it's like, but he knew her. And she's like, and he's like, wait, what? And it's like, it's Dodd.
And Skerritt asks, where's Dodd?
Yeah. And he's like, and the guy looks around and he's like, oh, he just took off in your car.
I laughed so hard at that.
Because there's at one point when Christopher Walken's saying she knew him, that you see Dodd like look back, kind of like that sock monkey guy, like from.
He's like, oh shit, is this really happening?
Yeah.
This is another moment too that, this goes back to something Jason was saying, or maybe Jeff, you were saying it too, is that there was full belief from Skerritt, like right away. Bannerman didn't say like no, or like there wasn't like 30 minutes of the film where you're like, oh, you're just a quack. It isn't, they just jumped into it.
Yeah.
Instead of giving us some bullshit.
Yeah. Instead of spinning,
Skerritt's seen some shit, man.
Yes,
yeah. And it's like, there's nothing that pisses me off more in a plot. And it's done a lot in these times where it's like, they have to make it real. So they have to spin their wheels for 45 fucking minutes to make this person convince somebody that it's real, and makes movies that should be an hour and 45 minutes like this one be like 2.5 hours.
I hate it. They belabor it. And it's like, no, just believe what you see and accept it.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
And if somebody asks, well, why do they believe? It's the fucking world that they're in. Who cares? Who cares?
If we know it's true, don't make these characters go through the rigmarole.
Exactly. It's kind of like,
I mean, Bannerman could have listed off any number of crazy shit he's seen in Castle Rock, right? And it's like, why wouldn't I believe this?
Imagine sitting down to watch The Dark Crystal with somebody who constantly asks, well, why is this happening? That's not real. That's not real. What's going on here? That wouldn't happen like that. It's a fucking fantasy, you asshole. It's like, this is a science fiction movie in a lot of ways. So it's like, the rule is there. He has the powers, and at least 3 people know that
it's been proved out.
That's been proven. So Bannerman can believe it. It doesn't matter.
Oh man!
God damn it, people!
So they go back to Dodd's house to get him, and Dodd is his mother is Colleen Dewhurst. And she's creepy as all hell, and Dodd is in his bathroom, and he's about to kill himself in the weirdest way possible.
Yeah, shove scissors into his own face.
Yeah, he has a gun. Why would he do that? It's so bizarre.
Well, because he's really committed to the way he kills people.
I guess he's twisted. Yeah,
yes, he is. And I love the scene when Johnny Smith grabs the mother's hand, and he's like, "You knew."
Yeah,
you knew. It's so powerful. It's just so well done.
It is.
Well, and she's kind of also either she groomed Frank to be a killer, or she's living in fear of him.
Right.
I think she's protecting him. That's the vibe that I got. Is that's my boy.
Maybe.
I think there's a little bit of both, probably.
You might be right.
But because she was more than willing to kill Johnny and George.
So I have a question for you. When Christopher Walken leaves the bathroom, after he discovers the body of Dodd, he grabs his gun.
He takes his gun.
Why did he do that?
I thought it was the mother grabbing his gun. That's what I was confused.
The mother had a different gun.
The mother had a different gun. She had a shotgun. Christopher Walken has a gun.
Yeah.
When he comes out of the bathroom, he takes it.
He takes it out of the holster that's hanging over the radiator.
Yeah, and
maybe he saw her future. He knew the mother was going to try to shoot him. That's the only thing
I could think of.
And he couldn't shoot her
in time.
Probably, either in time or
she had the drop on him,
or she kind of reminded him of his mother a little bit.
Yeah,
because his mother was also creepy and weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, I cleave unto you this bullet, Johnny Smith.
it went right through. There's nothing, is what he said later.
Yeah. Yeah. But this does do one thing to him. He is hardly able to walk now.
Yeah.
like he was getting better, and then he regresses, and this is when he decides to pull away.
Yeah.
Becomes a hermit,
this is
basically.
also, he does become a hermit. This is also where the doctor wants to study him.
Well, he also tries to give him drugs to help him with vision.
And he's like, I don't want any of that.
I just want to be left alone. And hey, check out this closet of mail that I have.
Yeah.
All desperation.
Yeah, that's a really great moment. That's a really great moment. It's like, how do I weigh these requests?
Yeah,
you know?
this is the philosophical argument that people want to have with Superman but can never pull it off. Like,
Plus, Superman doesn't. Superman doesn't die a little bit inside every time he saves somebody. If Johnny Smith answered all that mail, he would have withered to nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's what the doctor essentially tells him. It's that
need a controlled
other
environment.
people that I've seen, that have presented with what you've presented, it seems like their powers weaken them and could eventually kill them. And this is where the brain tumor came into play, I think, in the novel, but they didn't go that direction.
Is it that the brain tumor gets bigger?
I think so. Yeah.
I think something else ended up using that. Maybe the TV show actually used
it. Might have.
Was it Michael like that? The John Travolta film where he has a brain tumor and I think he has premonitions too.
Oh,
or
was
something
that
like
Phenomenon?
That.
Was that?
Maybe it was Phenomenon.
Michael, he's the archangel.
He's the angel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got like pockets full of feathers.
So Johnny now at this point is
about shit that doesn't make any sense. It's not real.
Why is this happening? Why can he see shit? But now he's become a hermit, and he's basically
a private tutor.
Teaching children at his home, and that's his way of controlling his environment. And he convinces the doctor, like, look, I've already established what you want for me here. Mm-hmm. And I want to live what little life I have out here,
Yeah.
And this is when we get, I guess, to the third act, the political thriller.
Yeah.
Is it
absolutely?
This point?
Yeah, most definitely, because there's a couple things at play here. This is really where we're not introduced, but where the politician played by Martin Sheen really comes in as a character. Greg Stilson.
Yes. Yeah. But our entryway is into one of my favorite character actors, Anthony Zerbe. He is.
He's the father of the kid, right?
So Anthony Zerbe, let me tell you real quick my history with Anthony Zerbe. One, License to Kill. He gets his head fucking exploded, and it's awesome. Jason knows what I'm talking about. Number two, he was the bad guy admiral in Star Trek Insurrection, and he gets his face stretched.
Nice.
And in this, he's kind of smarmy, but he teaches him a lesson in the midst of being smarmy because of Stilson.
Yes, he does. He's an interesting character, actually, because
he seems to be one of those kind of cogs in the political system where sometimes you just put on the happy face and the smiles and the all of that stuff and you but then when the person's out of the room, it's like, oh, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah. So all right. So there's a lot that happens in this last act.
And it happens fast.
It really could be a movie in and of itself. But
I would love for this whole part to be in a movie of itself.
But you're introduced to Roger Stewart, who played by Anthony Zerbe, because he comes to Christopher Walken's house about him being a tutor for his son.
Yes, he actually has seemingly very good intentions.
He's a dad who wants to help his son and connect with his son, and he doesn't know how, right? And yes, he's probably someone who's wrapped up in his work, who hasn't always, who probably wants his kid to be a certain way, sort of like the father and son in Salem's Lot, right?
Yeah.
Like he wants his son to be like a hockey player, and he wants to find things that his son wants to do that he likes to do. He's not perfect,
he's
but
not
he's
perfect,
trying.
But he also recognizes that his son doesn't even have any friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's trying to help his son, and he's heard great things about Christopher Walken as a tutor.
He does know who Christopher Walken is.
He's done his research. Yeah.
But he does not go to him for
that.
Although it'd be fascinating if he did, though.
It would.
But that's not. It actually is kind of honorable what he's trying to do.
So he agrees. He has to go to his house though, because what's the kid's name?
Chris.
Chris
Won't leave his room.
He won't leave his room. So Christopher Walken, Johnny goes and he visits with Chris, and they seem to have a really nice visit. They go for a walk. They seem to connect.
Yeah, they're like laughing at the end of their walk. Like they're like telling good stories to one another.
Well, I like the way that Johnny approaches him. He's like, your dad says something's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to bring you out of your shell. And Chris is like, my dad is the one who lives in a shell.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, they become fast friends, and whatever Johnny is doing is working.
Yeah, and it's kind of expect that to go in a different direction. Like the dad might get jealous of that relationship, and maybe that's where it could have gone if it didn't go the way it did go. But anyway, they come back from their walk. On the way out is Greg Stilson and his goons.
Oh my God, that one goon! It's like
he is such a goon.
Like seriously, if any never mind. I was going to say
Sonny.
If any political type person showed up with anybody who looked like a goon, we wouldn't elect that son of a bitch.
I think his
but never
character's
mind.
name is actually Sonny. I mean, that's a goon name.
That's a goon name.
Yeah.
But on the way out, they're having this conversation about the fact that Greg Stilson needs his money. He's like, what I really like best about you is your money. And he slaps a political campaign button into Christopher Walken's hand so they don't actually touch.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it lets you know immediately that if they had held hands here, he would have seen something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But you get it. You get it. Like this is a dirty politician. They don't make any bones about that. He's not a good guy.
No, yeah, because like it's just one scene later it's 2 scenes later. He is meeting up with the guy who's the
editorial
writer, and he set him up with a woman.
Yeah,
all just to fucking
to stifle his editorial from coming out. Yeah, but before that, there's that scene that you were talking about, Jeff, where Roger wants to have a drink with Johnny and talk about his son and what he thinks, and they sit down in his parlor and they have Johnny has a beer, and they sit in front of the TV, and on TV is Stilson, and he's like, well, let me tell you about that guy.
You're gonna vote for him? I'm not even registered. Well, get registered and then vote
for the other guy.
Vote for the other guy,
because this guy, he's dangerous.
He's dangerous. He doesn't know why, really, but he knows that there's something about him that is bad.
I love the explanation there of like boosters or whatever you want to call this guy, saying, well, I have to have the appearance of friendliness with this guy because he might win.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that explains our political landscape, like in one line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to look like I'm on his side when he wins.
Yes, yes.
I can celebrate quietly when he loses.
But if he loses, I can say I kept my distance from this guy. Yeah. It's great. It's wonderful.
Yep.
So then, he goes about his tutoring of Chris, and then what happens one day, this guy knocks on his door, and he starts to tell him about all the grand and wondrous things that Greg Stilson is going to do.
He's a third-party
country
candidate, too.
Yeah, he's a third-party candidate. And all the wonderful things he's going to do for the country. Have you heard about him? And Walken has the great line. He's like, what do you think? And he points at the huge billboard across the street.
That has been erected over the course of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how big this fucking billboard is. Yeah. And it's not even on a billboard. It's just a brand new billboard being built on public land.
Yeah, this movie does such a good job of presenting Stillson throughout. Like, he's mentioned very early in the film, and then he comes up again, and then you see him, and then all of a sudden he's the primary.
They're really, really good at also showing that he's a demagogue without beating you over the head with it.
Well, it's fucking Martin Sheen. You know it as soon as you see him. It's funny, though. He says he's going to be president someday, and he is. Another prophecy in this movie.
Did the West Wing end with all-out nuclear war? I think it did.
I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah. The president pushed the red button. Yeah. Anyway, so
in his PJs.
So what we see next then is he's talking to this guy about Stillson and all of his merits, and then who comes up to join him at the doorway but Sarah. And it just so turns out that she's working on the campaign, and this guy is her husband, and
that pretty much destroys Johnny.
Little Chris comes out of his room and says, what does he say? It's so weird. He's like,
what's the point in me reading?
Come on back, Johnny. Hey, come on back, Johnny.
I got almost too weird of a vibe from their relationship.
I totally did too. It was creepy. It was way too
familiar.
Way too familiar or dependent. Yeah, it was strange. Yeah.
They were codependent.
It kind of felt a little bit like the kid and like Fearless.
Oh yeah.
The kid and what's his face, the actor?
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, thank you. That he saves from the airplane. I got that vibe from their relationship. Yeah. Okay, so then Johnny breaks down crying. Kid doesn't understand why, but like hugs him, and that was weird too. You know? Like this is way too weird right now.
It's just the closest.
But Johnny is super vulnerable in this moment. Yeah. So then, what do we kind of get next? I forget what happens to. It's the hockey match.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
He gets the vision at this
when he hugs him. All right, so he had to hug him to get the vision. Yeah, and then he sees all of these hockey players
falling through the ice,
falling through the water, and he's like, "What's that about?" And he puts it together. Later, when I think he takes Chris home, he takes Chris home and it's like, Chris, you ready? We're gonna go to the hockey match now. You know, get dressed, and then it hits Christopher Walken what he saw, and he delivers the famous "the ice is gonna break" line, in the only way Christopher Walken can.
You can't just blow by that. You got to try it.
I can't try it.
The ice is gonna break.
There you go.
That's it.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
But he smashes like a candy
with his cane. Yeah,
with his cane. Yeah. The ice is gonna break.
It's gonna break.
And then after that, and then like in like just like 30 seconds, like I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. But Roger agrees. He said, "Okay, fine. You know, we won't go, but this is it with us. Here's your check for your last tutoring session. We're done. I don't want to see you ever again." But he's like, "Okay, that's fine." You know, he seemingly saved. He shakes Chris's hand on his way out, and he realizes he saved his life. He's not going to die now, and he feels content with that, and he's going to move on. What he doesn't know is that Dad was only just saying this to get rid of him. He still wants Chris to go to the hockey match, and Chris is like, "No, I don't want to." His dad is like, "Of course." You know, he's disappointed again. Like that now, this wedge has been put between them again, because Chris believes Johnny, and he's like, "No, I don't want anything to do with that." And what happens is it actually does break, and 2 kids die in the waters, and you see, you know, the newspaper headline, and you see this broken Roger in bed, I think.
He's sitting in a chair while the phone's ringing.
Yeah. And it's kind of a weird moment where Christopher Walker calls and Chris picks up the phone, but they don't say anything to each other.
Yeah, he just
says Johnny. He says Johnny. He thinks it's Johnny, but I think that was sufficient for Johnny to say, "Look, I've saved his life,
and
it's time to be out of it."
Yeah.
And I have a dead zone.
Yeah.
things that I can't see, which are now something that can be changed, possibly.
Yeah.
So then he sees Sarah walking over at the campaign thing that's across the street. And I don't know why he's really weird in this scene. Like, Walken has like this very urgency to him while he's looking for her, but I don't really understand why exactly. But he ends up shaking Stilson's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he sees the very long, like, cutout or scene of Stilson pressing the button. Like, he becomes president. We don't know exactly who he's attacking, but he launches, nuclear missiles at someone.
Whistles?
Nuclear vessels. But yeah, so
and he's pretty he does it pretty gleefully. It's not that he is nuking some other country. It's preemptive, for one. He wants to do it. Like, he is not entering into this decision with any gravity. He's excited to do it, and he forces the other person, who I don't know who that other person is, who also has to put their hand on the scanner to do it. He basically says, it was
probably either,
I was thinking like defense secretary or something,
or the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yeah, it could be, but
because the fucking vice president's outside,
right?
Yeah, that's right. He's like, either you do it or we'll cut your hand off and we'll do it ourselves.
There's something interesting in the scene too, that I got the impression that Stilson's character has some kind of foresight as well. Because he's saying, "This is my destiny."
Yeah,
like, he doesn't.
Oh, that's just demagoguery there. That's
maybe, but I think it might have been a little bit of, he has some light shine to him on the dark side. I don't really know.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's explored in the King novel.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either.
Because I think, if I'm correct, the half of the novel actually follows Stilson, and the other half, I think, follows Johnny. If that's correct.
You might be right.
I think it's like told in parallel stories or something like that.
I think you're right, because I think
they converge.
I think you're right, because that's there's all sorts of, like, how Stilson came to power. Like, that he was like a fucking wise guy and, like, basically bullied his way up and killed the people.
That's why he has a guy named Sonny with him. He's obviously a wise guy too.
Well, he's connected. Yeah. I mean, we will never, I mean, thankfully, we will never have somebody in power that is connected to the mob. Thankfully. Thankfully.
Yep.
Anyway.
So he gets this premonition, and it's pretty serious, right? I mean, everything else has been a little bit like, I'm not
it's
great.
It's personal
stuff,
to that person.
But it's very community oriented. This is like the entire world, right?
Yeah.
Right.
This is the big one. What's he going to do? And that's when he has a conversation with his doctor. Was it doctor?
I think it was his doctor. He calls his doctor back.
Yeah.
I love that.
I do think that he thought for a second that he would stick the watch up his ass.
I think he thought about hunk of metal. Yeah, he calls his doctor back and he asks him, the age-old question.
If you had the chance to time travel and kill Hitler, would you do it?
And his doctor, in a wonderful monologue, essentially says, "Yes, I would kill the son of a bitch."
Yeah, and the whole monologue
couldn't get out.
The whole monologue is like, he's leading to saying, "I'm a doctor, I can't kill anyone."
Right.
But he's like, "Of course I'd kill the son of a bitch."
Yeah,
exactly. Love it.
It's great.
And yeah, even if it meant the cost of his own life, he would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, Johnny's like, all right, well, it's a good thing I've got this rifle over here and these gigantic fucking bullets. Like, those bullets, if you threw it like a dart, would kill somebody. That's how big and sharp those bullets were.
Yeah.
So he loads up and he does a smart thing. He takes his gun apart so that he can easily travel with it on bus. Mm-hmm. By the way, that bus looked like that was a fun trip. Just across the like the Northeast there, just going by bus at sundown.
And
Yep.
he's going to go to the hall where he's going to speak the next day
And sleep there overnight.
in the balcony. Yes.
And he writes Sarah a letter saying,
Why?
by the time you get this, I'll have already murdered Greg Stillson.
And why I have to do it.
Mhm.
Yep. You may never know why, but I have to, basically.
But
yeah,
she gets an idea, though.
yeah, she ends up figuring out what is.
Why he's such a fucking goon. I'm glad that our government will never be run.
Oh, no.
He's a complete and total coward.
I have a feeling you're going to buy a bus ticket soon. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud.
Yikes. Yikes.
What the
These are inside voices.
Yeah.
Canada, so that I can live without the virus. And
Okay. Yep. That's why.
Yeah. So what happens? He fumbles with loading the gun first.
Right, which drops a bullet, but nobody notices it.
Mm-hmm.
They just kick it around. By the way, have you guys ever kicked something on the ground and never looked to see what you kicked?
Never.
No.
In my life.
I've always been like, what the fuck?
What the hell
Oh
did I
my
just
god!
Yeah. What is
It's a
that?
giant bullet dart thing.
Yeah.
Somebody's playing bullet darts upstairs. I'm going,
Weird.
And he does eventually get off a shot.
but while he stands up
Mm-hmm.
and Sarah sees him and says, Johnny, and then he freezes for a 2nd
Mm-hmm.
And he shoots, but he's off. He's off target. And Goon Sonny stands up and shoots the gun and then knocks the gun out of the way, and then he shoots him.
And after that shot goes off,
Right.
that misses, Stillson grabs Sarah's kid
Mm-hmm.
and just holds. Oh, it's so great. He holds the baby in front of him
As a
like,
shield.
As a shield. He uses the baby as a human shield. And
There's a guy from Newsweek snapping
God.
pictures.
I want a copy of that Newsweek. By the way, like somebody needs to Photoshop me a copy of that Newsweek.
I'll go looking for it. Hang on a second.
It's fantastic. But yeah, it hits the national newspapers. It shows Stillson holding the baby, and this is actually what Johnny sees in his last moments.
Yep.
Stillson
No
goes
future
over
for
to him. He's
Stillson.
like, what is this? What is this? And they touch again, and Johnny sees the new future that he's created, and he sees the Newsweek cover, and he sees Stillson, essentially, who has been disgraced, and is reaching for a gun to kill himself, and he realizes that he's changed the future, and that Stillson won't become president.
Yeah, and I love that Johnny doesn't have to kill anyone.
Yeah,
I think that's really,
agreed.
really great that he doesn't become a murderer. He accomplishes his goal just by exposing the nature of Stillson for what he really is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Instead of killing him and people not knowing.
And it kind of makes him a hero. Yeah, like people will see that and they're like, wow, probably wouldn't. They wouldn't. What's the word? They wouldn't agree with his methods of what he maybe did. They don't know what Johnny knew, but maybe they would piece that together, right? If you're a reporter for Newsweek, you might say, well, who is this guy? Oh, this guy is known for premonitions that always turn out to be true. What the fuck did he know about Stillson?
Yeah, there's an untold story there that you can piece together in 100%.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I was, while Jeff is looking up the Newsweek, I was honestly, I was kind of floored by how good this movie was.
Mm-hmm.
I expected a Cronenberg film to be good. Like, this is going to be good. I'm going to enjoy watching this. But it was, like you said, it was elevated beyond the genre. Kind of like, for me, The Dark Knight is elevated beyond a superhero film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's transcended into a different realm. And honestly, I don't hear a lot of people talk about The Dead Zone as a great movie. And maybe it's out there, but it was a really good surprise for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I thoroughly enjoyed this. And it's I mean, I think right now we are definitely 2 for 2 on the Stephen King month as far as killing it. But one thing I definitely wanted to bring up: this movie is full of like really good actors.
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, you got Christopher Walken, you got Tom Skerritt, you've got Herbert Loam, you've got Martin Sheen, Anthony Zerbe, Brooke Adams. I mean, these are people who have done quite a bit in their careers.
Colleen Dewhurst.
Dewhurst too.
She's in a tiny little role, but she's an accomplished actress, Broadway actress. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is definitely. This was not a cheap ass movie. Yeah.
So weird. And Colleen Dewhurst was also in Anne of Avonlea. That is wild. Those Canadians, man, they really stick together.
Those Canadians really, it's all the maple syrup.
Yeah, they literally stick together.
That's the moral of the story. Canadians stick together.
Canadians stick together.
Yeah, it's very sticky sweet too. I definitely. This is the first time I ever saw this movie, so I was glad it was chosen. Good job.
Good job.
Thanks, guys. I like it too.
Next week, we moved to Chuck's pick, which we ruined earlier, but go ahead, Chuck. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, next week we're doing another film, Stephen King adaptation that was released in 1983, John Carpenter's Christine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen this one.
Bitch and music. I can tell you that much already.
Yeah, and it's got if you like those headlight shots, Jason, you're gonna love Christine.
I think this even has lens flare.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A little J.J. Abrams lens flare for you.
Well, J.J. Abrams would have been the type of stuff he would have been watching and getting.
Yeah.
We get a really bitchin' John Carpenter, Alan Howarth score in this one. I'm excited.
The score in this movie also. So Anthony Zerbe got
a lot of old 50s tunes. I think too on the soundtrack.
Yeah. So with Dead Zone, the score for Dead Zone, Anthony Zerbe got his head blown up in License to Kill, which was scored by Michael Kamen. And Anthony Zerbe put some ideas into Christopher Walken's head in this movie.
It's
scored by Michael Kamen. But this movie really kind of felt like the score really, really elevated this movie too. I felt like it feels like it's like a really grand movie. And but
the score is not like overt. It's just it's like another character. It never takes over anything. It's just kind of there, which I appreciate.
It does not overpower actors, but in the scenes where the actors aren't saying anything, it's there to pick up the
right.
It picks up the weight. Yeah.
I believe this was the last time that Cronenberg worked with a composer that wasn't Howard Shore. I'm pretty sure he only worked with Howard Shore after this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So, yeah.
One interesting factoid for y'all is that this was not the first time that Cronenberg collaborated with Dino De Laurentiis. Dino De Laurentiis wanted Cronenberg to direct Total Recall.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And that just didn't happen for various reasons. And Cronenberg ended up leaving that project and moved to The Fly. So he made The Fly instead. So,
yeah.
That movie creeped me the hell out when I was a kid.
The Fly is awesome. I just watched that again recently. It is awesome.
I need to borrow that set from you so I can do some.
Again, another movie about the Superman and transformation of the Superman, right? And that those things don't always go very well.
I always thought Gina Davis was super hot in The Fly.
Yeah, she's great in that. They're both great. Goldblum is just, he's awesome in it. Yeah.
Anytime you can get 2 hours of Goldblum is a good time.
Hey, so you guys want to watch Invasion of the Body Snatcher?
That's right. He's awesome in that.
He's in that.
Yeah.
You got Donald Sutherland. You got Leonard Nimoy. I mean, it's
a
powerhouse.
Yeah. We should definitely watch that. I watched that recently as well.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, Jason, you want to try to you want to try to stick the landing on this?
Sure, guys.
Things are?
So every Wednesday, new episodes of Film Seizure. Every Monday, new episodes of Monster Monday. Every Saturday still, we got 00 Saturdays going on where Jeff talks about a Bond movie, right? It's about a Bond movie or
or the music
music from a Bond movie. Alternating weeks. That's coming quickly to a close.
Boy, we're rushing headlong towards a decision that I have to make on whether or not I'm going to see No Time to Die or if I'm going to wait, and we have to do something different. Yep.
And then also over at B Movie Enema, Jeff writes about a B movie with his butthole, and that's pretty fun.
I just fart onto the keys, and 5,000 words come out.
Terrence and Phillips it out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, but basically, if you want to find anything Film Seizure related, go to filmseizure.com. That's home base. All of the things we write about, all the things that we talk about, everything is there. And then we also have links out to our socials, so you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also find the podcast various places like Spotify, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, all those great places. But so find a place that you like the best where you keep your podcast categories and you can listen to us there.
And if we're not on your favorite podcast service, then just switch your favorite podcast service to the one that we are on. Yeah. Just dump all the others.
Duh.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, come on.
Definitely.
Man. All right. Well, I think that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was all right.
I think that was good. I think
I'd give it like a B+.
I think you did good. I think you did good. You did good. Chuck, it's your turn next week. So,
get nervous.
All right. So next week we'll be vroom vroom in the 50s lady car.
Yeah,
lady car named Christine. She fixes herself. That's kind of nice. I mean, don't you wish you had a car that could do that?
Yeah.
Anyway. And one of many examples of Stephen King's fascination with cars and the evil nature, perhaps, of cars.
Yep.
As a vehicle, air quotes, of evil.
Interesting.
Oh.
Channel of evil.
A moving Marston house.
Yeah.
Nice. A dead zone.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll allow it.
Well, it sends people to the dead zone.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there is from a Mercedes 8, which we'll talk about. Or the Mercedes? No, from a Buick 8.
From a Buick 8, yeah.
It very literally represents that. It's the car is a passageway into the Todash space it's very Lovecraftian. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, so that's going to be next week. So until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm making bookcases. I'm Chuck Moore.
And I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.
That was good, Chuck. I like it.